Hello, this is Joe Vescovi, aka Joe Crypto. This is episode 2. In episode 1, I told you guys why I wanted to create these streams. And I told you that I wanted to provide unbiased data. Another reason why I wanted to do this is for education, to educate people. This is not financial advice. This is for educational purposes only. I had a couple rules for myself going into this. My first rule was there's going to be no political affiliation. I don't play those two-party reindeer games. Now, I might call somebody out. Perfect example, I might call the GOP out in a couple minutes, but that is not because I'm a Democrat or I'm not a Republican. I'm not neither. I just call people out the way I see it. My second rule was going to be no shilling of coins. Shilling. That is SHILLING. Now, what does that mean? It's a crypto term. That means basically if I have a whole bunch of Cardano, ADA, I got it all stacked up, got whatever I wanted, and I promote it. Be like, oh, you got to buy this. You got to buy this technology. You got to buy this technology. I don't do that. When I first got into this, when I first got into crypto about 4 or 5 years ago, that's all I saw was videos, people promoting what they had. I fell for it. Lost money. It was part of the learning curve, and that leads to my third rule. I will never, ever tell you what to invest. My job here is to give you data and to educate you so you can make your own decisions. And there are no hidden agendas. I'm going to start with some financial news. The CPI data comes out Tuesday, July 15th. This is very important. There's a lot going on with interest rates talk. The GOP wants Powell to lower interest rates. Actually, the GOP wants Powell out of there, the Fed chair out of there. If the meeting's July 30th, the next Fed meeting is July 30th, if Powell's still in and the CPI data comes out Tuesday with the CPI at 2.3 or greater, I do not see the Fed lowering rates. Now, if the CPI comes out 2.3 or lesser and Powell's still in there, might be a chance they might lower it. If I see the CPI come out 2.3 lower and Powell's not out of there, if Powell's out of there, out of the Fed chair, I do see them lowering rates. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. The tariffs are still going on. The reciprocal tariffs, it got pushed until August 1st. If no trade deals are being made, what I've seen is most countries are going to have 25 to 30% tariffs. Brazil got hit hard. They're at 50% tariffs, right? If they don't make a trade deal after August 1st. The Genius Bill is in the House. It's going to be voted on this week. It's a vote on stablecoin regulation. I'm going to have more on that probably in the next episode. And I will tell you in a couple minutes what a stablecoin is. But first, I want to tell you what a blockchain is. A blockchain is 2 words, immutable ledger. First word, immutable. That means once the transaction hits, you cannot erase it, you cannot edit it, you cannot delete it, you cannot modify it. It is what it is. Blockchain transaction time. Credit cards are 30-day transaction time from start to finish. Sometimes 45 if there's a dispute. Bank transfers could take up to 5 to 7 business days for a transaction to be finalized. Deposit, withdrawal, or using your credit card or debit card could take up to 3 business days to be finalized. Blockchain could take about 10 minutes to finalize, up to 2 hours to finalize. Now, what does that mean? Last week, July 4th was on a Friday. Say you went grocery shopping Thursday, July 3rd, bought a whole bunch of groceries on your debit card. You're not going to see that transaction finalized until Monday. So you're basically going from Thursday to Monday to see that transaction on your debit card finalized. With blockchain, it takes 10 minutes or up to 2 hours. So that Friday, well, even it all depends on what time you buy your groceries. That Thursday would have been done. I can go grocery shopping if my debit card was on a blockchain. I could go grocery shopping Sunday, and within 2 hours, the transaction will be finalized. Next thing I want to do is some of the fundamentals on blockchain. Blockchain deals with hash. It's a hash algorithm. When I do these streams, you're going to hear me talk a lot about Bitcoin. I know a lot about Bitcoin. The hash algorithm that Bitcoin uses is SHA. I mean, SHA. Yeah, SHA. Yeah, single hash algorithm 256. You can tell I'm new at this. One of the fundamentals is the blockchain. A blockchain is a set of blocks that goes in order. And it cannot go backwards. It can only go one way. It cannot go backwards. Number two, it's deterministic. What that means, exact data will generate the same hash. And I will talk about what a hash is in a second. Number three, fast computation. Again, 10 minutes, from 10 minutes to 2 hours. Number four, they call it the avalanche effect. Minor changes the hash completely. What does that mean? Say you make a sentence. Say my name is Joe Vescovi, period. You get a hash number. Now, in this particular algorithm, a hash is 64 characters. So say I say my name is Joe Vescovi, question mark. That hash completely changes. Even though there was a minor change in the documentation, you get a totally different complete hash. Number five, must withstand collisions, which means if a hash number comes up and it has the same hash number as a couple blocks down the way, it's called a nonce, Nonce. It creates another hash number. So there's not going to be any two hashes with the same number. Number six, no double payments. Now validators will verify to make sure there are no double payments. Blockchains are copied across the nodes. It's the same blockchain. It's just copied for users. Now, what does that mean? A node could be, say you're playing a video game on a blockchain. Say you're writing code on a blockchain. Say you're making a bank transaction on a blockchain. Say you're mining or staking on a blockchain. Those are all nodes. If a block is added, the copy chains verify it, and then it is created, and only then is created. And I'll get to that in a couple seconds. If there is a malicious attack or an error in coding and the hash is changed, peer-to-peer will solve this issue. They use the Byzantine generals problem of a 51% attack. Say you got 100 nodes running right now. It takes up to 51 nodes to have a malicious attack to change a block. And that's with basically all algorithms, proof of stake, proof of work. I will go into proof of stake, proof of work, proof of history, stuff like that in a later episode. Let's see, is there anything else I could talk about Bitcoin? Actually, I'm going to talk about it in a couple minutes because there's a public and private blockchain. Most blockchains are public, which means you can see it. Anybody can see it. There's going to be private blockchains that nobody can see the data. Nobody can see the hashes or anybody's keys. Those are going to be used for corporations. Let's see, what else can I say about Bitcoin? Let me go into stable coins. What is a stable coin? A stable coin is a liquid digital asset that is pegged to another asset, pretty much one-to-one. Digital assets are more liquid. Say it's being pegged to gold. Digital assets are more pegged. Digital assets are more liquid than gold is. Say you're pegging to the US dollar, which I see a lot of stable coins going into because there's a huge circulation of US dollars. Digital assets are more liquid than paper money. Now you say, wait a minute, Crypto Joe. No, it's not. I could go to the store and put $20 and buy some. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. How many people do you know actually carry money on them and not a debit card or credit card? That cash that you're using still has to be deposited in a bank for them to actually receive that money. A liquid asset on a blockchain, again, 10 minutes to 2 hours. So a stable coin is basically a digital asset pegged to another asset. A great time to get into crypto. Why do I say that? The last 4 years, I have taken the data that I have received, the unbiased data, and made my own opinion. About 2.5 years ago, I was telling people, some of you might remember, there's 3 things, in my opinion, that have to happen before you see a real spike in crypto. Number 1, FTX went bankrupt. You got Mt. Gox that got hacked. Mt. Gox was a central exchange. Those need to be made whole. Now, what I mean by that is people lost a lot of money. So they need to be made whole, whether it's 100%, whether it's 90%, or even 70%. They need to be made whole. And that's in the process. Either it's been settled with some central exchanges, or they're currently settling on the money that people lost on those central exchanges. Number 2, I said 2.5 years ago, they need a stablecoin bill. That is coming to fruition probably next week. Number 3, and this is the big one, the Clarity Bill. They needed blockchain, they needed crypto regulation. And I see all 3 of them getting resolved pretty soon. Another reason why I think this might be the last time it is a good time to get into crypto. If you look at Bitcoin's history, it has a 4-year cycle. It's called a halving, where they take blocks that are being rewarded and they're halving it. I will get that in a later episode. I don't want to throw too much information out right now. If you looked at the last 3 Bitcoin cycles, the Bitcoin bull market hit 3.5. No, I'm sorry. It hit 1.5 years after the Bitcoin halving. The last Bitcoin halving was April 2024. 1.5 years from now, from the halving, is October 2025. Look at the last bear market and see the data. You'll see what I'm seeing. The last 3 bull markets happened. Bitcoin bull markets happened 1.5 years after the Bitcoin halving. Another reason why, the last reason why I see this bull market being huge, it might be the last the last bull market, big bull market, is the Fed already said that they're going to do quantitative easing in September. There's going to be a lot of liquidity flowing. What I mean by that is that money printer is really going to be turned on. I mean, you're going to see a large amount of money being printed. There's a subscriber on YouTube that I've been following for years that made a claim to last year beginning of last year, saying there's going to be so much money printing going on. And I thought, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But as the years progressed and I saw all the money printing, I'm just like, you know what? They're right. He said the same thing this year. And I looked at the data, and sure enough, there's going to be a lot of money printing starting in September. I mean, there's money printing now, but you're going to see a lot of money printing September, October, November. That liquidity is going to go into different sectors, and I see it going into crypto sectors. It's a new technology. Once people get educated on what the use cases are on crypto, I think just the money savings, not even the security, but the money savings, I could see a lot of companies going into blockchain technology. Not your keys, not your crypto. What does that mean? All right. There are many central exchanges where you can buy your crypto on. And again, I'm going to use the SHA-256 algorithm that Bitcoin uses as an example. You have 64 characters. All right. So when you go to a central exchange, say you're using crypto.com and you want to withdraw your funds, they're going to give you a 64 character number and letter to withdraw your funds. Now, really quick, 64 characters in the SHA-256 algorithm. Every character it takes 4 bits to make a character. 64 times 4 is 256. That's where the 256 comes from. There's two types of keys. There's a public key and a private key. Obviously, and it is what it is. A public key, you can tell anybody. Your private key, you don't want to share with anyone. I've seen a couple videos explaining public and private key, and they're all confusing. This is the easiest way to determine a public and private key. If you're depositing, that's your public key. You can give that to anybody. There's some airdrops and we're going to talk about that later. I'm very sketchy on airdrops, but you basically give a blockchain your public key, and they'll airdrop their coins. Like, again, we're going to get into that later. It's very sketchy. Your private key is used for withdrawals, so you never ever want to give your private key out. Now, with that being said, those two keys, your public and private key, say you're on crypto.com, and you see your public key to deposit on crypto.com, and you see your private key to withdraw on crypto.com. There's going to be two totally different 64 characters in there. Now, if you're on an exchange, they have your private keys. The only way you're going to have your private keys if you have a hot wallet or a cold wallet. And we're going to talk about that later. I've been using Zelcore. That's a desktop wallet. Those are my own keys. So basically, and again, I'm not trying to confuse anybody. I'm trying to explain it to a way somebody that doesn't know could actually know. If you're on a central exchange, they have your withdrawal keys, your private keys. The only way you're going to have your private keys is if you own some hardware, or you're using a desktop, or you're using an app. Okay. And then we're going to go into this later. If you're staking on a central exchange, they have your keys. Okay. So let me explain this again. If you have your crypto on a central exchange like Coinbase or crypto.com, they have your private key to withdraw. They own it. So if they go under, there's no recourse besides a civil lawsuit. Your public key and your private key, when you own them, you own basically like a ledger or a desktop app, and you own your keys. So basically, if you bought something or if you downloaded a wallet, those are your keys. They're in there. If you leave your coins on an exchange, they own it. Now, this is kind of the confusing part. Some digital assets don't have a wallet. They don't have, and you're going to hear me say this a lot. It's called an onboard and an offboard ramp. Especially some new digital assets do not have an onboard or offboard ramp for like a ledger or hardware wallet. The coding's not in there. You basically have to have a coding for an onboard and an offboard ramp. Say, okay, for example, say I made a Joe Viscovi coin, which actually I can. But say I made a Joe Viscovi coin. Okay, it's new. Unless you go to a central exchange and buy it and leave it there, there's no wallet supporting it unless I have developers make an onboard or an offboard ramp for that. So sometimes if you're buying a new asset, if you want to get into the game really quick and you buy that new asset, you're pretty much stuck on that central exchange where you bought it from. Now, there are some developers that made, how can I say this? Made staking protocols on their blockchain. You can do that. You can store your crypto on that blockchain. They own it. So in other words, the only way you own your private or public keys, if you literally own the hardware or the software that you have your digital assets on. I'm going to talk about this more later in coming episodes. My next episode is going to be based on how to invest, what to look for, market caps, central exchanges where you can buy your coins. Because again, if you want a particular digital asset, you have to find where to buy it. Not all exchanges have everything. Perfect example, Coinbase does not like proof of work. I don't use Coinbase. You can't. You can use Coinbase, but Coinbase doesn't like proof of work. Let's see if there's anything else I forgot. No, that's about it. I told everybody that my episodes are going to be around noon. I work a lot. So I'm not going to do live streams for now. What I'm going to do is make a video, post it on Facebook. It might be noon or 3 o'clock on Sundays until things slow down. This is going to be the first video I'm going to put on my YouTube channel. I did create a YouTube channel. I'm going to put this video on here. There are 2 questions I had, actually. I want to get to that really quick. This is what I want to do. If you have any questions, I want to answer them, and it's going to be towards the end of the streaming. The first question from Jay is, I have some money. What should I invest in? I'm going to go through that next week. Again, I will never tell you what to invest in. If people ask me what I invest in, I'll tell them, and I'll tell them the reasons, but I'm not going to go out there and shill my coins. The second question I had was about hardware wallets, the updates on the firmware. I know for Zelcore, my desktop wallet, every time I log in, it updates. I'm pretty sure when you plug your ledger in, it does have a transmitter to get updates. But I don't want to make a final decision, Bill, until I actually know all the facts. But I'm pretty sure once you plug the ledger in, say you don't plug your ledger in for like 6 months, as soon as you plug it into your USB port, the firmware should load up. But I want to verify that. Bill, I'll let you know in the next episode. Stay positive. Have a good Sunday. Take care.